the stream. And it should start pretty soon here. Public. All right, the public is live.
Here we go. Are we live in the studio?
Yes.
All right. And we are live on the YouTube as well. Greetings, everybody. We'll give you a minute here to get started. We have started. We are up and running live. Yep, we're live. Can you hear me?
I can hear.
I can hear you.
I'm glad that works like that. We have a 60-second clock. We'll give everyone a minute to show up. All right, it's a SuperFlex draft that we're about to pull off here momentarily with Emil Kadlec drafting from the 5 spot, John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar, taking the 10 spot. Everyone, if not familiar, it'll be you'll start a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and a SuperFlex, which can be a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end, which essentially makes this a 2 quarterback league for the most part. I mean, there's a slight variation there that, you know, if you don't get 3 quarterbacks, you had a bye week, you can play somebody else. So it helps out. But becoming increasingly popular, the Scott Fish Bowl, you see if you're on the Twitter device, is a 2 quarterback league or a SuperFlex league. And so we wanted to try one of these out. More and more people doing them. Hope you guys get a chance to do them. I know we've gotten some suggestions from people to do some other formats, and we will try to do that. First, I will introduce John Laub. How are you, John?
I'm doing great, and thank you very much for the invite. I prefer the SuperFlex draft over all fantasy football leagues. Now, obviously, I do so many, but if I had one that I would like to draft, and it's the SuperFlex. I like to start with the 2 quarterbacks, but if there's injuries and bye weeks, it does give you some flexibility to gather a lineup.
Yeah, I think that's the key here is you want to be able to, you know, kind of have that opportunity on weeks when you don't have the all the quarterbacks you need, and they will come on bye weeks, to get something done still and be competitive. So do that. Emil will be drafting out of the 5th spot. John out of the 10th. Emil out of the 5th. Emil, how are you this fine evening?
Enjoying the day. It's been a good one.
And just in general strategies, Emil, do you have an approach in mind?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna let the top 2 quarterbacks go, which they won't take long. And I'm gonna look in the middle rounds for, you know, like the 3rd to the 5th quarterbacks. I'm gonna seriously look at taking one of them. If I get a decent one like that, then I'm gonna wait for my 2nd quarterback a little later.
Yeah, that second tier of quarterbacks is very appealing to me. They'll be earlier, and we'll see how appealing they are when they're going in this one. Obviously, the SuperFlex is a big deal. John, have you given much thought to the approach for this one tonight? I know you've done these and you enjoy them. Are you going to use a usual approach, thinking you'll just kind of take it as it comes? What's the plan?
In a perfect world, one of the 2 big quarterbacks, Mahomes or Jackson, would fall. But if they do not fall, I will probably look to the 3rd round to get my quarterback, and then I will read the board. I feel very comfortable in a SuperFlex with 16 quarterbacks. I would like to grab 2 of those 16 on my personal board, but it also, therefore, I have to watch the draft to see how they fall off the draft board before I pick a 2nd one.
Yeah, I get a little greedy in SuperFlex and 2 QB leagues. I like to have, and we are starting the draft, so looks like we've got most everyone on board. We got a full room there, Emil?
Oh, we probably do. We won't really know until we get
2
through.
guys, maybe. If you could
Wow,
scroll
look at
down so I
this.
can see
Kamara
the
goes
names a little
before,
bit.
and we had Patrick Holmes go, so I have some thinking here. I think I'm going to take
Emil, could you scroll down a little bit on the in the video window so I can see the names of everybody?
Yep.
I got it. I can see it now. Yep, I see it now.
Oh.
Thank you. So it started out with Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. You'll find there goes Patrick Mahomes, the third off. I think, most of the ones I've had experience in, the early players are about the same. The only question is how soon Mahomes and Lamar Jackson go. This is not crazy early in a SuperFlex league to see Patrick Mahomes go, and nor will it be crazy when Lamar Jackson goes, even if it's this pick or the next pick, etc. So Alvin Kamara is the third running back off the board is interesting. I'll say that, though. I've not the first time I've seen this. I saw Marcus Grant, our buddy from NFL.com, do it in the Kings Classic. Not a two-quarterback league. Emil takes advantage of that, and I'm sure he thinks to get Ezekiel Elliott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So for the most part, the running backs are coming off, at the rate you would expect, if not the order. Dalvin Cook, and the only question is if the Gridiron Scholar is going to get his wish and get one of the two quarterbacks. Michael Thomas, a wide receiver off the board. It is a PPR league. Michael Thomas, very valuable, about a wide receiver and a half based on last year's production. So there's something to be said for that high floor, guys. And I think that's why you'll see both the two quarterbacks that go off in the first round go off as they do, super high floors. And there you go, John. Joe Mixon goes off, a guy I like an awful lot.
I am so fired up to have Lamar Jackson in a SuperFlex league. I mean, look, it's the best case scenario. Maybe now a run on the quarterbacks. I just saw Dak Prescott went right behind me. So now I'm hoping people get a little bit nervous, which means some running back value might fall to me in round 3. That's the risk that I'm willing to take here because now I want the quarterback run to occur.
Yeah, that's a little earlier than I've seen even in SuperFlex, the next quarterback come off. I fully understand it, though. Remember, Dak was the quarterback 2 last year with Patrick Mahomes missing some time, so not totally insane for him to be going in this range. Guys, I tend to want to come out of rounds, say, 5 with my 2 top quarterbacks. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? I know, Emil, you said you wanted to wait a little later. Is that something you've contemplated? What time frame you're interested in?
Yeah, well, we'll see how it flows, how these quarterbacks go. If you get to a certain point,
Get into a run.
yeah, you're gonna have to take them. When you're gonna have to take them. But do I want to wait
Right,
for Tannehill, who I can get really late, or am I going to take somebody that's a little higher rated for my second guy?
Looks like Widowmaker is not in the house, so we'll have a long turnaround until they are. 2-minute turnaround if they are not there, and always makes it interesting if someone is not in the room and the ADP selection goes, and it can hurt you. The perception of it. Guy sitting in the queue, and you're waiting for somebody. He gets Derrick Henry in this case. We'll see what the next player in the queue is. I'm not looking in the draft room. I'm looking on the YouTube, so I'll not see it. See who that pick is, but makes it a little tough.
We're a little heavy, but I won't say nothing.
No, I know you are. I'm just trying to. I have to watch for questions, and so I'm stuck walking in the YouTube room. And that reminds me, if you're in the YouTube room watching, and I see some of you are, feel free to ask questions at any point in time. I'll answer the ones you have. If they're not related to this draft, just anything in general questions, values, players, choices, etc. Hit the subscribe button here on the YouTube page, and make sure you get on top of all our content that's coming your way. We have a ton of it. You can go to footballdiehards.com/free trial if you'd like to take a look at what we do and you have not yet seen it. If you have seen it and you're thinking, why haven't I gone and subscribed yet? Just go to the order page and use the promo code Diehards to get a 15% discount. John Laub comes off with his first running back, second pick, Nick Chubb. So, John, let me ask you this, because I feel pretty good. I think you just hit that territory Interesting that we have not seen Kenyon Drake go off yet. Was there any consideration there?
You know, Kenyon Drake was in my queue. I obviously had hoped for Josh Jacobs or Nick Chubb to come to me. I have Nick Chubb ranked much higher than Kenyon Drake. I think Chubb is number 6 on my board. Kenyon Drake's number 11. So I'll gladly take Chubb there. I look at I got a running back who lead the NFL in rushing. Obviously, I know he might not produce as many points in a PPR format, but if I can get 1,600 yards and double-digit touchdowns, I'll take that any day out of my starting running back. I love this Cleveland running game in 2020.
Yeah, they're going to be running a lot. Interestingly, the word out of practice today was that the reporters on hand have not seen any formations with both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on the field at the same time, which is something we expected. I've seen a lot of 2 tight end sets. Someone would like a 10-team SuperFlex half-point mock tomorrow. Probably not tomorrow, but we'll put that one on the list. Brian Larkin is drafting tomorrow at number 5. Who is your top running back? Non-PPR. Changes a little bit in the non-PPR. I mean, depends on how high you want to move Derrick Henry up, Brian. I mean, 5 is certainly defensible if he is still there. I think any of the top plays at that point, whether it's PPR or not, I think the only guy who really gains a ton of value in that early range of picks is going to be Derrick Henry. I think everyone else kind of goes off at the right time. And I think Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs rise a little bit, maybe ahead of the Miles Sanders and Kenyon Drakes of the world. So I kind of play it by ear. If there's a Derrick Henry, get him. And if it's at 5. So, and if not, I would take any of the backs that are the normal range of backs that are available. Emil went with Tyreek Hill, so he's got the Ezekiel Elliott, Tyreek Hill role. I just want to say the start with the Michael Thomas, the new sheriff in town. Michael Thomas, Austin Eckler start, very PPR friendly. So that's interesting. And there we have our first team with 2 quarterbacks. A sneaky move, if ever there was one. Kyler Murray and John Watson joining Christian McCaffrey. Dirty Randy 11 is going dirty already. There's no doubt about it. That's a strong play. We'll see if he can take advantage of some value at wide receiver. I'll say this, in drafts that I've been in, when I get that Christian McCaffrey first, it frees me up to do whatever the hell I want afterwards, right? You can try a lot of approaches and feel comfortable. Just like Michael Thomas allows maybe you to go really heavy at other positions and lay off getting another wide receiver until much later, especially with the value at wide receiver right now. So Emil now has Ezekiel Elliott, Chris Carson at running back, picked up in the 1st and 3rd rounds, and Tyreek Hill. Emil, how are you feeling about this start?
Not good. I was going to take Murray or Russell, and I went with Hill. I thought Russell or Murray would get to me in the next pick. They didn't, so I ended up taking the running back, get some security at running back, and we're going to see what happens in the 4th and 5th. I'll probably go QB no matter what happens. Hopefully he'll get a few players left that I like.
Some interesting starts. This is a little earlier on the quarterbacks that I've seen going off in most of the ones I've been in, although it's not insane early. And again, seeing people with 2 quarterbacks coming out of round 5, not that unusual for me. I mean, it's certainly something I'm planning to do in these kind of drafts in a SuperFlex or 2 QB league. But there are others who are a little more patient. I tend to get a little impatient on these things. I like to get in almost like in an auction when the last guy in a tier comes up and it kind of inflates the price. I think I want to avoid the end of tiers, with quarterbacks, because I don't want to miss out or get caught in a run. And that's one of the things with Widowmaker still sitting out. So that'll be a bit of a wait for the 2 picks there. And I don't know how the algorithm will select, the ADP will select, not knowing how good Sleeper is at that. But I think when you start out, John is starting out with a balanced approach. Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, Allen Robinson. I love all 3 guys, John. Which direction do you think you go next?
So interesting. I would like a running back. However, I don't like the value at the position on the board. and I love the wide receiver right now. So I have a feeling, depending on who goes next, I'm probably going to go wide receiver and try to dip into some value at running back in rounds 5, 6, and 7. Because Lamar Jackson gives me a little freedom here where I can wait on my second quarterback. And Bob, I love Dirty Randy. With that Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson,
Right.
and Christian McCaffrey. Like, that is a really nice build. So I just think that
Randy.
filthy. I mean, now it gives you so many options when you have McCaffrey or Barkley at the top of the board. I really like the way you can form your team because you get those, the second, third round. You basically are getting back-to-back picks. So it's really nice there, but I like that a lot.
Yeah, I do too as well. And of course, the Widowmaker 223 4 running back start kind of really skews the draft a fair amount. So
I didn't
John
see
is
that
back.
till just now.
It's very helpful when the people show up for these drafts. DJ Moore goes to John Laub, so he starts out with a quarterback, a running back, and 2 high-end wide receivers. I love both those wide receivers. Like the Joe's start there as well with Odell Beckham. Good range of price, not without upside. Talked to Mike Tagliere from Fantasy Pros today. He ranks Beckham 7th overall wide receivers, and he made a good point. I mean, Beckham is the guy you're drafting outside that top range that could easily be wide receiver 1. Certainly has the talent to do that. So interesting there. A couple questions I want to get to here. Thoughts on the number 1 wideouts on pro teams drawing top coverage, making the wide receiver 2s more valuable? It depends on the offense. E.A. Perkin, in my estimation. I mean, like for the Saints, you would think that would work great, but they funnel the offense through such a narrow band. We'll see if Emmanuel Sanders changes that. But I mean, obviously, it's better than not having someone draw coverage away. I just I think it's more the design of the offense. John, do you have an opinion on that?
I think it's the design of the offense. It depends on the teammates. I'm okay, like with DJ Moore. I do think he's the number 1 wide receiver in Carolina. I like Curtis Samuel. I like the parts they have with Robbie Anderson. But I do think most likely DJ Moore will garner the most targets. In general, I do want the value. But I think there's a separation between DJ Moore and the rest of the Panthers. So I like him here.
Yeah, I agree. And look, they have enough weapons there to draw coverage away as well, some of them being Christian McCaffrey. They bring in Robbie Anderson. So, I mean, there's some guys that can challenge them. Curtis Samuel, of course, is there as well. Edgar Soto would have preferred Kittle or Godwin over Deshaun Watson because his crystal ball, Edgar Soto, says Watson will lose Fuller and Cooks by week 4. Entirely possible. Also entirely possible they make it through a full season. I'm not as good as reading the future, although if I read the past, yes, that is a fair guess on your part, Edgar. Certainly their history has not been good and with regards to staying on the field. All right, Cam Akers, going a little running back heavy now, Dirty Randy. So this is something I've seen. Emil, I'll let you make your pick before I ask you about this. But the value for me in these drafts is at wide receiver. And I notice Emil now has 1 wide receiver, 2 running backs, a quarterback. We'll see where he goes next. But I find that I'm much happier waiting, and he maybe even in a 2-quarterback league or a SuperFlex even later. Love the Mark Andrews in this price pick at this price. But I like that approach a little bit where you wait a little longer on wide receivers. We'll see how Dirty Filthy Randy lets it play out. You take Robert Woods, another high floor. So you have a high floor wide receiver and at a great value, by the way, Emil, to go with Tyreek Hill, who's a super high ceiling player. How are you feeling right about now about this?
I was seriously going to take a quarterback, but Woods was kind of right there, staring me at the face. He's really a good pick right now, high powered offense. So there's a 6 or 7 quarterbacks I can take as my number 2. So I'm hoping that one of those quarterbacks lasts to the late 6th, and Woods would be a great value pick then.
I would agree with that. Interesting start by Jeff Stooge. with kind of a traditional draft start, man. Going with two solid running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Aaron Jones, followed by Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, and Amari Cooper. That's three wide receiver ones, or capable guys capable of playing at a wide receiver one for their NFL team. I think, we'll see how they end up for fantasy purposes. Steve Quatrocky wants to know, is Cam Akers the true number one in L.A.? We do not know this. I have talked to reporters who cover the team on a daily basis, including Jordan Rodriguez from The Athletic, who believes it'll take until half the season is gone before we see Akers truly locked into that top spot. But it can start earlier, and Malcolm Brown, she thinks, is going to be a very busy guy. They're talking about Darrell Henderson being healthy by the time the season starts. He's dealing with a bit of a hamstring issue. But yeah, I don't know that he's the true number one. It looks like a true committee to me. And Richo's getting great value, I think, at the wide receivers in this range after going Dak Prescott in the first round. Had some questions about that, but dang, that's Dak, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, Odell Beckham, Keenan Allen. Is that making you nervous, John?
Absolutely making me nervous. We got a lot of sharks I'm drafting with in this room. I really wanted DK Metcalf, and he was sniped one pick before me. I do like DJ Chark, and that's who I took in the 5th round. So I'm a little bit wide receiver heavy, but, I kind of took a risk. I understood that running backs were flying off the board. Le'Veon Bell just went. I was hoping I could dip my toes into him. So I got to look at my running back board here. But I feel all right. I got Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, and DJ Chark. I have, in my opinion, 3 alpha stars on their teams. And I like that upside in any given week for one of those 3 to go off.
For future reference, anyone who signs up for the mock drafts, it would be great if you showed up for them, because if you don't, we get what we see from Widowmaker 3, where there are 5 running backs on that team. Which kind of skews the rest of the draft and makes it a little bit unrealistic. But everyone else is forging forward as though it were a thing, and we appreciate that for the rest of the drafters. So if you're wondering why somebody is starting with 5 running backs, it's because they're not there. Edgar Soto loves the Mahomes-Kelsey stack by Kev. I would agree with that. And the stacking is something we've talked about in some of these mocks, and known a little more as a DFS play, but I think you're seeing it more and more in regular fantasy play, regular redraft, etc. So, Emil, how do you feel about stacking, say, your quarterbacks with some key players? Is that something you'll try to do in this draft?
I don't really look at that. Obviously, it's not a bad thing to do. It's a good thing to do, but I'm really not. I'm looking at value, and if I like a receiver and I happen to have the quarterback, I won't take him because of that. So for some reason, I don't really look at that DFS style kind of a thing.
And John, you're on the clock right now. I'll let you make your pick and get your opinion on there. Raheem Mostert, as the running back supplies dwindle. Thank you, Widowmaker 223. So, John, how do you feel about stacking in this kind of format?
I absolutely love stacking, and I've always want to be honest with anyone who's listening. I'm hoping that Marquise Brown falls to me in the next round. I could not take the risk of a 4th receiver. So I had to dip into the San Francisco running game, which now means I'm going to have to take later in the draft, most likely Tevin Coleman. But I'm okay with that. I knew the running backs are coming off the board. And I like looking. I think the value... Oh, he went, so I won't be able to stack here. But that's okay.
There's still some stacking possible.
Yes, and I could always stack with my SuperFlex quarterback. So I'm okay. I would have done Marquise Brown in the next round. I'm into it. I needed wide receivers and running backs. So when Mark Andrews, I would have said this. If he had fallen to me in the 5th round, I would have taken him. But he went at 5-2. So I like stacking, yes.
All right, there goes Ronald Jones. So, it is interesting, the artificially induced additional scarcity of running backs to go in with the scarcity of quarterbacks. I'm wondering at what point we'll see the next run on quarterbacks go here. And we haven't really seen it. And that's something else. I mean, neither of you guys are right on the end of the draft. John, you're a little closer. Emil, you're almost dead in the middle of this one. I'll ask you first, Emil. Is one of the reasons, if you get the opportunity to pick your position, to keep you from getting caught or stuck outside of runs? I think the middle, my feeling is it gives me a better chance of not. Do you agree with that, or do you think I'm reading?
Yeah, I like to be somewhat in the middle in a super flex like this for a run. I was waiting for Will Fuller to come to me. I took Terry McLaurin, and I thought I'm going to take a quarterback. But if Fuller could hit and he didn't make it. He just went with the second pick in the 7th round. So now I just may take my quarterback, so I don't have to worry about a run. But truthfully, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks that I could choose from. Now 4. Somebody just took Stafford. So I'm going to take Wentz. And
so just in case, because if your run is 4 players, clearly that could happen where you're at. You can kind of do the math and calculations, which is something I like to do. John, you're on the closer to the end. Are you worried? You can get some pretty long ways between picks. Is that always a concern for you with the runs as in like a super flex league or say a tight end premium league where maybe one of those positions is value increases?
Absolutely, but I definitely would have been worried about a quarterback run. But for a super flex draft, I have to say the quarterbacks have fallen. Like, I feel pretty comfortable that I don't have to rush to the quarterback board. I saw that Emil took Wentz, and I love Carson Wentz, but I popped on my board, and I still have like 6 quarterbacks in my top 16 that I'm comfortable with. And I have a sleeper in the 20s that I'm okay with. So I don't think I'm going to take a running back here. I feel pretty good that I can wait. So I like some wide receivers on the board. So I'm going to think about what value, where I like. But I think I'm still going to wait a little bit on the wide receiver position. Or on the quarterback position.
Get him go. Danny Dimes. Ooh. That's fairly early for him.
Yeah, some of us like him. I mean, I know you like him, Bob. I like him. Yeah. I usually don't see him go this early with this much quarterback value still around.
I haven't seen that much either, and he's got a really tough early schedule this season.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a bit of a concern. Second quarterback to P.F. Fuller is Tom Brady. I can sense the Gridiron Scholars' sudden nervousness. I don't know. He gets the high floor guy, and boy, we've heard some great stuff about Joe Burrow and this Cincinnati offense. Might be because they're working against the Cincinnati defense in practice, but the reports have been good. Very glowing on Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, AJ Green back on the field again, so that's always helpful. We'll see if he can get past that hamstring and make a consistent showing at training camp. We've heard T. Higgins has looked really good. Heard Auden Tate has been the MVP of camp, and now we'll find out if Widowmaker 223 can get a 7th running back to start this draft. That would be great.
He's got 6. Oh, that hurts.
Evan Ingram goes off here. I think it's interesting. The tight end order has been pretty much what you'd expect. The price is not crazy. Again, if you're watching or following along on this, go ahead and hit us up with questions and comments. I'll be commenting on your questions and comments. And if they're for John or Emil on their selections, let us know, and I'll make sure they see them and answer you. And any other questions, if you have anything about any strategy, player values, either ors, anything you might have, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I will answer those as well. And we'll see what this pick is momentarily. AJ Green got a wide receiver. Took my recommendation. Did the auto draft.
He's got 6 running backs and a wide receiver.
AJ Green is a good price. I mean, I think 7th round is a damn good price for him, and obviously probably pushed down a little bit, but not a ton based on the ADP you're seeing. You're seeing him go in the 6th round. I mean, right now you see a Marquise Brown, AJ Green, and another player who I will not name, until the people drafting draft him. But this is the range where you're seeing him go, and I think it's amazing. You know, if you're looking for league winners, and we talk about this a lot, you know, league winners I would, you know, describe as players who can you know, win you draft, come out of nowhere to win you drafts. If AJ Green turns back into AJ Green at the price you're investing in him, whether it's a 6th or 7th round pick, and he plays up to AJ Green standards over the course of his career, hell, if he just gets the workload he's got over the course of his career, which would be a 25% target share pretty much every season he's been healthy, and that would exclude the last 2, of course. But man, you're going to get some real value there. But Devin Singletary, some talk about him struggling with his ball security. Zach Moss making a push, and there goes the Scala, Cam Newton, Cameron Newton. Talk about the selection. You know, Bob, how you feel about prospects.
I absolutely love it, Bob. You were just talking about a player that can win you the league with the high upside. I love what I read about Cam Newton in New England. Bill Belichick and that organization fleeced the league. I am all in. I have 2 dual threat quarterbacks with Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton. I love it. He could be a league winner. He easily can finish in the top 8 in fans if he remains healthy. And I know the risk is there, but I'm willing to embrace that risk in round 8.
I had an interesting conversation today about, you know, Newton, you know, kind of looking a lot like Tim Tebow his last couple of years, couldn't get the ball down the field. I'm thinking, wow, Josh McDaniels figured that one out in Denver. Maybe he'll figure something out for Cam. You'll be surprised to learn that there's a really good coaching staff in New England, and my guess is they'll figure something out here. Emil has his 2 quarterbacks, Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz, along with Ezekiel Elliott, Chris Carson, Tyreek Hill, Robert Woods, and Terry McLaurin. And now he adds Zach Moss, a little depth at running back, a player he and we like at the site very much. Seems to be a guy on the rise. So you've got some reasonable depth there, Emil, I think, at the running back position. And again, part of this is the lack of depth right now currently available. We have someone on auto draft that's picking a lot of running back.
I was really wanting to get Higbee, and the guy before me took Higbee. I was
super sniped.
Really lucky, but not
super sniped.
Yeah, super sniped. So yeah, things are moving. I decided to get a backup at get a 3rd running back. I pretty much was slim at running back, but if I'd have gotten Higbee, I'd have felt great. But now I will focus on a few other tight ends in a round or 2 that hopefully will have a good year.
Coming up on your pick soon. Just wondering, you know, the super snipe, the snipe right before your pick, it could be crushing. Do you usually keep a player or 2 in the queue just so you don't get caught in that last minute? Go, damn, I have no idea who I'm going to pick, and you kind of panic pick.
Yeah, I've really been known to have with 3 picks left. It's good to have 3 picks, 3 players. And Slayton was a guy I was thinking about, either him or Jones, and Jones went a few picks ago as an alternative. So it's always good to have him, because I really was just salivating over Tyler Higbee. And when the Hurst went, the die doubled up before the guy who took Higbee, ding dong. And it was frustrating, but you just have to clear the mind and move on. You can't get bogged down about it.
Our first 3 quarterback team, or some would contend 2.5. Depending on Jared Goff's outcome. Look, I think Jared Goff is maybe a little better than the rest of the world, but an interesting play there. You get Darius Slayton, Emil, so pretty solid receiving core for you. I'm sure tight end will be on your list, and I'm guessing you'll wait a little later now that you've missed out on the guys that you really like. He said Tyler Higbee.
Well, there's 9 tight ends have gone. I will probably let a Henry and a Cook go, so I have got Gersicki and Fant, Doyle, TJ Hawkinson, who are guys I'm looking at right now. So I may not wait too much longer. However, who all has got tight ends right now? Let's look at the board. Don't we love the way you can look at the board and see what position is filling? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The problem with my loop around is the 1st through the 4th, there's 2 teams without a tight end. So I may have to take a tight end coming around here unless I feel comfortable with going a little deeper at that position.
This is a SuperFlex draft. Start one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, a tight end, a SuperFlex, which could be the quarterback, the running back, or the wide receiver tight end. So we're moving right along here pretty good.
So, Bob, I got a question for you.
Go.
In a SuperFlex, we're just mocking to 14, but let's say it's an 18 roster league or a 20. Would you take a third quarterback?
I would.
SuperFlex. Okay.
And I would. It wouldn't be.
I do also.
Yeah. You do here, John. No, I'm just kidding. This might be a range where I take one though, because I kind of like to avoid the dregs, but there is some really deep value at quarterback. There's still a lot of good quarterbacks available, or at least viable quarterbacks available at this point. Jamison Crowder, a player I loved, at this price point. Again, some of these values are, prices are being driven down because of the quarterbacks going, higher. So maybe Jamison, and there's one of the quarterbacks that I would have been targeting as my third quarterback is Ryan Tannehill, who in general ADP is about the 20th quarterback off the board, and a guy that just has more upside than that. I know it's not proven over the course of time, but it was proven over the course of about 9 games last season, and it was good enough for me to buy into it. At least
he was taken as about the 19th. If I counted right, that was the 19th quarterback.
Yeah.
Taken.
So still a viable, 10, 12 guys, or 9 to 10 that are going to be starters at least to open the season. And we'll see beyond that. There are a handful of guys. I think one of the guys that, is hard to get a handle on is like Tyrod Taylor, who's been very effective, as a starting quarterback, but they've drafted Justin Herbert. Hard to say if they'll actually, if they'll try to force Herbert in or if there's some losses. So a little worried, but Tyrod Taylor's a guy that has an easy early schedule as well. So, and that's something to watch for this unusual off season. Looking at some of the teams just in the makeup in general, Dirty Randy is working his way along. He's got a solid play. I like Antonio Gibson. I guess the running backs after Christian McCaffrey. Let me ask you about this, Emil. You look at his running backs after the quarterbacks, DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson. They're all kind of rolls of the die, if you will. But when you have Christian McCaffrey, that's a little easier to do, right?
Yeah, he just got to get one of those guys to work as a starter other than bye weeks. It's a nice way to go. I don't know, 3 rookies, maybe one of those 3, maybe I would have picked somebody who, has a little experience, maybe a semi-decent floor.
And the scholar is coming up again and gets his tight end, his upside tight end, and Mike Gesicki. We saw him come on hard down the stretch last season, John. He's a guy that lined up a lot at wide receiver. That's probably going to stay the same under Chan Gailey, who likes those 3 and 4 receiver sets, right?
Absolutely. And I know there's a debate about Chan Gailey has not necessarily used his tight ends a ton. However, the one season he had Tony Gonzalez, he fed Tony Gonzalez the football in Kansas City. Chan Gailey's a very smart man. When you have a talent of Mike Gesicki, you get him the football. Now, I heard Emil talk about him, so I crossed my fingers, but then I kind of got lucky because, well, here's what happened. I like Jamison Crowder, and I noticed the teams at 11 and 12 had just taken tight ends, Evan Ingram and Rob Gronkowski. So I said to myself, I'm going to roll the dice that Gesicki falls to me. I took Crowder at 9, and both of those teams, neither one took another tight end. So I was able to get another receiver I liked looking at the board. I probably would have taken Gesicki at 9 if those 2 teams did not have a tight end.
And what you bring up right there is a good example. If your commissioning product that you're using has a board like this, use it and use it for exactly what you're saying. And if it doesn't have a board, make your own board up out of a piece of paper, even if you're just putting positions on it, because it's important to see what's coming in your next pick. And it's a great move you made to secure both the players you wanted.
Oh, third quarterback for Tighten Up 73, and that's Kirk Cousins is one of those late guys. Look, the 3 quarterbacks we've seen go in this round One of them a third quarterback, two of them the second quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers, Gardner Minshew, Kirk Cousins. These are ideal guys to get in this range. If you're waiting a little later, I think this is kind of, I don't know. I've seen quarterbacks go off a little earlier, but this is about the range for those guys, even in SuperFlex. Dirty Randy gets himself a tight end at Hunter Henry. Emil maybe reached up, and this is something you will find that Emil Kadlec does, and it's something you'll find that he does based on a tool he developed for the website, footballdiehards.com, called the Stomp tool. Emil, if you will explain how that works.
Well, you're obviously trying to predict what's happening and looking where you can take players. Noah Fant is kind of a guy I like, but I have him ranked 13th. But I decided, because these second tight ends are going and a lot of people don't have their first tight ends, just like John did, I looked around the corner there, and only one guy had a tight end. And sure enough, after I took Fant, 3 tight ends went in the next 8 picks. And Henry went, Cook went, and Hawkinson went. And so I was smart taking Fant.
And Emil stacks his tight end with his third quarterback. Look at him go. Drew Lock off the board. Nice late round move. Savvy. The Stop tool, by the way, allows you to go in and select players that you want to target, and it highlights them when you create one of the configurable cheat sheets on our website and puts them in bold print so you can see, and it moves them up a little bit in our rankings and allows you to select them maybe a little before the crowd's going to select them, and that's kind of the whole idea. We talk about this a lot in the fantasy world. Wow, Jordan Howard, very late. I'm very surprised. The 11th round is about as late as I've seen him go for a reasonably clear path to workload, more so than, say, Latavius Murray or Philip Lindsay or a lot of these guys. So interesting play there. I was surprised to see him go so late. But one of the things we always talk about is getting your player, and sometimes that means reaching up ahead, and that's what we use the average draft position, right? We see it. We know when guys are going. It's not telling you when to draft a guy. It's telling you when a guy is getting drafted. There is a distinction there. And it allows you to go up and move ahead of where he's being drafted to make sure you secure the services of a player you want. So the Stop tool will assist you in doing that in conjunction with our configurable cheat sheets. You should be going to this website. It's called footballdiehards.com. You can go there, footballdiehards.com/free trial, and check it out if you have not yet subscribed. Or if you are thinking, man, I should be buying this already, just go to the order page and use the promo code Diehards to get a 15% discount. If you're here in the chat, ask us some questions. Would love to hear from you. Also, hit the subscribe button right below the screen here to make sure you get all our great content. And there's tons of it beyond these drafts. We have the Fantasy Football University, some great new classes from John Laub. John, tell us what you've been doing there.
We've been, anyone who's on footballdiehards.com, I publish my sheet of knowledge every week for DraftKings DFS cash game lineups. And over the summer, I've looked at all the data from my selections at the quarterback and the tight end position for the last 3 years. And I published 2 articles up online for everyone to read. And there's a link to all the data. You can look at every decision I made, how many points the players have scored. And what Emil and I did is at Football Diehards University, we put together about a 30, 35-minute tutorial how to target a tight end and how to target a quarterback for your DFS lineups each week. So you can read the articles, look at the data, and watch the videos.
Right, and you'll find a wide range from quarterback strategies to using the Stop tool, injury news, and how to use that, auction strategies, best ball, strength of schedule, trade concepts, daily strategies with John, as he mentioned, in-season team management. We have live drafts with analysis in there that done prior to this. And so we have a ton of content available at Fantasy Football University. It's all part of the Diehards package. So check that out, and we'll help you prepare for your drafts. Is Adrian Peterson, another guy currently working as a starting running back on his team, the Washington football team, which beyond just being a mess is a mess at like running back. We're trying to figure out what's going on. That's why Adrian Peterson's going in round 12. John Laub up with his next pick here. Drafts moving pretty fast. Would love to hear any of your questions about 2 quarterback strategies or SuperFlex strategies. And we'll be doing more of these mocks. I know someone else wanted a 10-team mock. I've also had some people request a standard league mock drafts, which I think is interesting. We don't play in a lot of those, don't see a lot of them, and would be interested in the comments if any of you are playing in standard non-PPR. I know I think it was Brian Larkin mentioned earlier in the chat that he's playing in a non-PPR or a standard league, so would be interested to hear if others are. Another team with 3 quarterbacks. So we've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams out of the total have 3 quarterbacks. And the Tua Tagovailoas of the world have now started coming off. That's a little bit, I guess you got a little bit of upside there, a little room if you got Breeze and Phillip Rivers. Interesting play there. Emil or Jeff Stooge takes Tyrod Taylor, a guy I would like. His second 2 quarterbacks, let's face it, a little bit dicey there. I like Emil's 3 quarterback setup. It's pretty nice. Got a late round upside guy, which I think is a good move. Emil, what are your and Sony Michel comes off the PUP list. He's a guy I've started drafting again based on that, and here's why. 12th round, right? Emil, it's almost like a free pass here.
Yeah, I was like, how can this guy make it there? There's just that mental worriness. You have to think logically. If this guy's the starter, it's the 12th round. He's my 4th running back. Let's see what receiver I can get. I got 2 receivers here I'm looking at. Preston Williams just went, so that hurt me. Could I have taken Preston Williams instead of Sony and gotten Sony? Maybe, but I didn't want to take that chance.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on dirty, rotten, filthy Randy 11, man. Look at him go with the late round upside picks. Deshaun Jackson, Marvin Jones in that crew, Preston Williams, a guy who has been practicing fully, from what I understand from Elaine Poupar of Sports Illustrated, without restriction. And both he and Devontae Parker are showing great chemistry with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is going to be your week 1 starter and probably stay in as long as they can. I mean, maybe we see Tua at some point, but they won't be rushing him in. Jack Doyle, a late round tight end that I love, or a later pick tight end, for anticipated volume. And when you drafted Travis Kelce and you wait this late, that's how you do this, right? When you get one of those early round tight ends, whether it's George Kittle and you see PJ Fuller 91's team, he does not have a second tight end either, nor should he. These are guys that should be drafting late if you invested that early capital in a tight end. And you could say the same for Tighten Up 73, getting Mark Andrews. So nice drafting there, team. Well done. Emil, Ashall, Jeffrey, is another guy that I like a lot in these late round throwaway kind of rounds, the freebie rounds. We don't know that he's going to open camp on PUP. He's running. There's no timetable, but speaking to at least 2 reporters in Philadelphia, he's a guy that's probably not going to open the season on the PUP, meaning even if he's not ready week 1, he's not ruled out through week 6. And that's, at 13th round price. That's a guy that could come out and be that team's wide receiver 1.
Yep, it's another. I wanted a few more receivers here. I was hoping Preston Williams would make it. Didn't even close. Alshon could be a number 1 receiver. It's the 13th round. I didn't have anybody else that's jumping out at me. I got a couple more guys I'd like to consider. We'll see what runs around here on the 14th round. Now, let's see. It was an 18-round draft. Maybe I would have gone a little deeper. Maybe I would have waited on Alshon because he's just dropping like a rock right now, and he's good value.
Chris Herndon, just looking at the last range of guys coming off at tight end from Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith, Austin Hooper, Jack Doyle, Chris Herndon. This is where tight end is at right now. They're not proven, but they're not without upside. I think is one of the strategies that I'm seeing a lot and I'm employing. If I don't get one of those top 4, I like Zach Ertz's price lately. He's been available in the 5th round in regular redraft, kind of not tight end premium. I like those guys, but if I don't get those guys, I'm staying away from the middle tier and waiting until this late tier. Noah Fant was tight end 16 last year. He was tight end 24 in targets. I'm expecting a little bigger role this year, and expecting more production would not be crazy.
And I do not have a backup right now. I probably should consider. Right now, I'm looking at a receiver, but perhaps I should be looking at. Is Mr. Doyle still not taken?
Doyle is gone.
Okay,
Just wait till a few picks before Alshon Jeffrey.
Scared me.
Shocking to see John.
Pardon?
Shocking to see John Laub get John Brown in the 13th round of a draft. Clearly the best player in all the NFL.
I'm so pumped. He just was sitting there. I had to take him, I thought, right? I mean, it's too much value in round 13. I needed running back depth, but I can't pass up John Brown there.
Right. There are, and I am only joking half joking when I call him the best player in the NFL. I think he's a great play, great later round pick. I know Stephon Diggs is there. But John Brown is that guy that runs past everyone on the field, and there's something to be said for speed. There's one other player who honestly is probably the player I love more, and he'll probably not get drafted in this, but I won't mention him until he doesn't. Golden Tate, Anthony Miller, Keyshawn Vaughn. Keyshawn Vaughn is a guy who, started this, post-draft run pretty much viewed as the guy who would be the starter. I mean, I can remember draft night, some of the analysis on this SiriusXM fantasy draft coverage was very high praise for Keyshawn Vaughn, whether he starting off in the COVID reserve, slowed his roll. Clearly the coach proclaiming Ronald Jones the man, at least to open the season, certainly has an impact there. But this is a pretty late pick for him, 13th round.
Absolutely. I think there's value there. You just have you have to be patient.
I would agree. So looking at the teams for Emil, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Drew Lock, his quarterbacks, Ezekiel Elliott, Chris Carson, Zach Moss, Sony Michel at running back. Look, I think all four of those guys could be their teams. Well, running back one, certainly the first two. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Robert Woods, Terry McLaurin, Darius Slayton, Alshon Jeffrey. I like some of those two late guys. Again, guys that could be their team's wide receiver one, selected after the 9th round. So nice work there, Emil. John Laub's team, as the Gridiron Scholar, wraps up his selection process for this draft. Has Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton. And if you draft Lamar Jackson and you only get two quarterbacks, this is not wrong. This is not wrong at all. If we'd gone deeper, he probably would have gone more. Nick Chubb, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, Duke Johnson, Bryce Love. Hoping a guy that can get a little run, and sounds like maybe there's a chance he can. Wide receiver core, very strong for Mr. Laub. The Scholar has Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, Jamison Crowder, and John frickin' Brown. Nicely done, Laub. Tight end, Mike Gesicki. That will be his only tight end. That's a strong receiving core right there, kids. And a few of these other teams that, we'll throw out the Widowmaker 223, just in case you've just joined us. That was an auto pick team. We love inviting you into our mock drafts. We love it more when you show up for them. So if you get in on the future, appreciate that. So just looking at some of the teams, I think we're all still pretty enamored with Dirty Randy 11's team just because it started out with McCaffrey. But let's face it, his running backs are lacking, right, guys?
Yeah, I mean, Emil mentioned earlier he needs if he hits on Swift or Akers, though, that is a nasty team he has. But he has to hope one of those become a weekly starter, I think, right? That gets you 10 to 12 points minimum. And then he's loaded, man. Wow.
Yep, and it's not a bad prediction there. It's not a bad way to go about it. He's got that end where, he looped around. It was going to be 22 more before his next pick, and taking two rookies is an interesting way to go. I mean, if Swift's catching the ball in Detroit as well as it sounds, he could end up getting that frosting on the cake to really make him a viable RB2. And then he's gone. Cam Akers down the stretch could be that as well, and we'll see what Antonio Gibson turns out to be. Getting a lot of work with the first team. Tony Pollard, his final running back selection, the final selection of this draft. I wanted to ask you, Emil, what you think of Dirty Randy's receiving core. T.Y. Hilton, Stephon Diggs, Marvin Jones, Deshaun Jackson, Preston Williams. That's a ton of upside. Is that a function of having Christian McCaffrey and those two high-end quarterbacks? You can wait a little later. Well, you almost have to because obviously you... Yeah, he was probably forced, and he wanted to get a second. He liked those two rookie running backs. T.Y. Hilton is the guy that we've loved for years. It's been incredible, but he's been hurt a lot. He was hurt even before training camp started this year. But, late 6th round, maybe that's not so bad. Diggs is not as popular. He's going to Buffalo, but he could be a very viable wide receiver this year. Marvin Jones is a guy that was a great pick because he's always seems to produce, and we just kind of forget about him. And then he's got 2 late flyers. Either one of those 2 late flyers, Deshaun Jackson, if he could just play 10 games a year and you knew which ones they were, he'd be valuable. And, of course, Preston Williams could end up being a great player this year.
Would love to hear from anyone watching to throw your view on the best team in this draft in the comments. Would eager to hear your assessment. In the meantime, I'd like to hear the scholar review his own team.
I like the upside. I am willing with Lamar Jackson. I would only draft 2 quarterbacks. And I think it's dependent on roster construction. If I did not have such a superstar at the top of my quarterback flex, I probably would have gone 3 quarterbacks, but it gave me a little bit of flexibility. And I do like the home run with Cam Newton. Obviously, I would have to watch the waiver wire if something happens to him or he's not producing. But I'm willing to take. I like taking risks in a super draft league, especially at the quarterback. Now, I'm very comfortable once the running backs went off the board. So this was an interesting super flex because the running backs went off the board and value fell at the quarterback. I was very comfortable dipping into San Francisco, getting both running backs, Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman. I feel pretty good about that. I like Duke Johnson in a PPR as a solid backup. He's probably not going to make my lineup unless there's an emergency or if there's a bye week. And I'll take the upside on Bryce Love. But I think, Bob, you said it, I really like my wide receiver core. I think I kind of, that's the strength of my team.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Emil, a little self-assessment on your side as well.
Yeah, it went pretty well. I got 2 quarterbacks relatively high. I wanted to take Carson in the 7th because I was just worried what would loop around. I could have still gotten Baker Mayfield, as it appears. Yeah, it's not a bad team. I did pretty good. Obviously, I'm pretty solid at running back. I got Carson in the 3rd round because I just wanted to make sure not to miss, and I felt the quarterbacks were falling. And as they did, so that turned out pretty good. I like getting Woods, I like McLaren. These receivers, I got some young receivers in my 3rd and 4th receiver that should be fun. And Noah Fant is going to be my risk if that guy turns out. I didn't get a second tight end, so if that guy doesn't pan out quickly, hopefully there's somebody in the depths of free agency that can help me. So that's a bit of a risk position there with Fant.
Yeah. All in all, pretty solid draft. Would invite you once again to leave any comments here about which teams you like, the picks you like, some of the best values, maybe some of the worst picks that you see, and we'll kind of revisit this. All these drafts are available on the site after they're done. So are our Ask Me Anything sessions. We're going 5 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Tuesday and Thursday, we're going at 8 p.m. Eastern and usually doing a mock draft like we did tonight. We'll send out invites to let you in if you'd like. I hope you go to footballdiehards.com/free trial if you're not a subscriber and take a look around. If you are a subscriber, you already know everything's great. You're already taking advantage of it, including our digital publications. Our Fantasy Football Pro Forecast magazine, 31st season, is available there as well as the 20th anniversary edition of Football Diehards. You can order them to be sent to your house, first-class mail. If you like to hold them in your hands, if you just like the digital version, we got you covered there as well. Tons of content. August Update Draft Guide is rolling along. News, notes, information, constant uploading videos, podcasts. The Football Diehards podcast, always a fun listen. Rankings updated constantly, so get those. Use our configurable cheat sheet to set your own roster limitations and requirements and scoring systems to get a custom cheat sheet based on our rankings. Tons of stuff up there. It's footballdiehards.com, people. You should love that. And you can hear us also on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio nearly 6 days a week, so don't miss out on that as well. And John, any last words on this draft?
Yeah, I was just looking at the teams. I really like Jeff Stooge, who picked right behind Emil at number 6. I thought he also put together some really nice wide receivers. Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy. I like that. And when you open up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Aaron Jones, I like it. You know, his quarterback's weak. But when you're that strong at quarterback and wide receiver, at running back and wide receiver, you're going to have a little bit of a weakness elsewhere. But I like that team.
What about Brian Moore 7083, who went, both quarterbacks relatively late, got a couple young guys, but boy, he's loaded around him with Dalvin Cook, Kenyon Drake, Adam Thielen, Cooper Kupp, Zach Ertz, Marquise Brown, Hayden Hurst, CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Howard with that 11th pick to go along with his 7th and 10th round picks of Daniel Jones and Gardner Minshew. Those quarterbacks have to play well, but boy, I like the roster construction.
I agree with you. Cook and Drake is a great beginning. And wow, I didn't even realize Thielen and Cooper is a very strong wide receivers at the top of your board. Yeah, that's a nice build too. I like that one also, my friend.
And he got Zach Ertz late. That's pretty nice. Yes. We all like Marquise Brown as a wild card. He's got to make the quarterbacks work for him.
Yeah, that's the key here. Emil, any teams that stand out or individual picks that really stand out to you?
Yeah, I noticed one person just was talking about P.J. Fuller 91. I was just taking a look at that team, and that's a pretty nice team. If he can get one of those late running backs to be a good number 2, we got Brady. He got a lot of guys there. That's a nice team. We got Kittle early. He spent some money, got Devontae Adams to quote-unquote fall to him. Very interesting team. Tom Brady could if Tom Brady ends up being a top 6 quarterback, he's going to be hard to beat.
Well, it turns out I have not been seeing all your comments in the YouTube live feed, and I apologize for that. There's been a ton of them. Wow. I guess I wasn't getting refreshed on my screen. Well, I feel terrible now. Great comments. I was wondering why everyone was so quiet.
Control R. Modern technology sometimes.
God, that's horrible. I've done a horrible job. I apologize to everybody. That's embarrassing. All right. Well, I may sit here for a minute and answer some of the questions that I missed. Great broadcaster. Looked at it online. Brian Larkin. Who do you? Matt Ryan round 8, Hayden Hurst round 10 stack. That's nice. Is the player on good pro teams or do players on? So this is a good question from EA Perkin. Maybe you guys could comment on this. Is it important to choose players on good pro teams or do players on lousy NFL teams have as much potential? Lousy teams still score points and produce offense. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals last year and no further than Joe Mixon. You should mind the right guys. You should not overdraft those teams and force the hand. You don't need 7 guys on a lousy team. But, man, you get the good guy on a lousy team or a couple good guys. Look, the Miami Dolphins were a horrible team last year. Devontae Parker and
Detroit Lions.
Right, Matthew Stafford as well. So, yes, that's a really good question, and you should mind even the worst teams because they're going to be value because people have a bad perception. Edgar Soto has a bold prediction. Brady makes a star finally of O.J. Howard. I don't think that's unreasonable. Justin Linero's laughing at everybody. Tannehill's a great value. I agree with that. Jonnu Smith going to ball out. Rookie wide receivers. Would like to rate the top 5. John, you study the rookies well. Who are your top 5 rookie wide receivers?
So for this year, I like Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Reagor, and Justin Jefferson. I'm a little worried about CeeDee Lamb, but he's probably 4 or 5. I'm worried about the pecking order right now there. And then I do like Michael Pittman. I'm kind of big on Michael Pittman in Indianapolis this year with Phillip Rivers. So those would be my top 5 for this season.
All right, and we'll roll along down here, see if there's anything else we can help anybody else with. Ted Cox would like us to know if we can explain the difference between making a stomp with low-stake and high-stake ADP and which one we want to use for redraft leagues. Emil, that would probably be in your territory.
Yeah, well, actually, the stomp, I haven't put the high stakes on because that just came up now finally, so I'll add the high stakes into the stomp. But in the stomp, you can select which ADP you want to use, which can make a big difference depending on who you're drafting with. Was there a second question there that I missed?
Nope, that was it. I'm rolling on through. Herndon is a sleeper, yes. A lot of people like that. Yes, he did flake. Would you recommend handcuffing Winston to Breeze? Edgar Soto would strongly consider that. I mean, I suppose if you're in a deep enough draft and it is a 2-quarterback or Superflex league, yes, I think that's not a bad play. But, in this 14-rounder, I'm not surprised that we did not see that. Widowmaker was not drunk. He was just auto-picked. He was not here. Surprising, no respect for Mike Williams. Mike Williams is going to miss some times there. E.A. Perkin with a sprained shoulder. We don't know when he'll be ready to go. And I've seen him going late in drafts anyway. Edgar Soto, I'm glad you enjoyed the show. I wish I had been here answering your questions all along. Keenan Allen also going at a great price. I agree with that. Edgar Soto loves Emil's draft. It's well-rounded, and Emil thanked him. That's very nice. Would have looked nice if we got Pollard's handcuff. All right. So what's the difference, low stakes ADP? It's basically just who's playing, Ted. So if we take the world's ADP, like Fantasy Calculator, where they're taking a wide swath of all the drafts being performed, it gives you a broader picture. These high stakes ADP is people who have invested a lot of money. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's better or worse, but it means the guys playing have something on the line and they're paying attention and they're putting a lot of effort into setting up their drafts. So I think I like the high stakes.
High stakes, it actually helps you sometimes find some players that high stakes people think are better than your typical player. You have to use an ADP that you believe your 11 competitors are drafting like. So it gives you information in two different ways, but you got to have to analyze your particular opponents in each draft of where you think players are going. They may not go where the ADP tells them they're supposed to go.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think there's something to be said there. I should have had live chat. All right, so I think there's something to be said for the high stakes, just based on people making investments. It's one of the reasons I like to use Best Ball. I play at Best Ball 10 a lot. And, there's $10 on the line every draft. And so even if it's best ball, there's some modifications from what I might do in a redraft. They tend to be the later rounds, and people are invested. They have money on the line. It matters to them, and they're putting their best foot forward. Widowmaker is not in my best ball drafts, not drafting. The people in my drafts are drafting because they take it very seriously because there's money on the line. All right, everybody, we appreciate you coming along. I'll do a better job next time. Again, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll be here at 3 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday and Thursdays, we'll here at 8 p.m. Emil, are we going to try and squeeze in a weekend one? Are you going to thinking about doing a mock here?
Yeah, we probably should on Saturday. We'll let everybody know.
Yeah, we'll send out an email or hit the subscribe button underneath the window and get notifications. Hit the notification bell as well. So thanks, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate the time and hope you enjoyed the draft, and we'll see you next